All right. Well, hello, everyone. Um, Happy June 25th. I hope everybody's staying cool today. I'd like to welcome everybody to our AAC webinar on agricultural safety. Um, the AAC, the Agricultural Adaptation Council, is very pleased to host this webinar series in an attempt to provide great, compelling information for our member organizations and their extended networks across the broader agriculture and food sector. My name is Peter Katona, and I'm Communications Manager here at the AAC. It's my great privilege to welcome Shawn Chadwick with us today. Shawn is an agricultural account manager at Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. Before I give his more complete bio and turn the presentation over to him, I just do want to cover a few housekeeping items for today's proceedings. We will have time for questions after Shawn's presentation, and we ask that you type questions into the chat. We're going to hold all questions to the end of the presentation. We've budgeted some time for questions at the end, so we will be monitoring the chat feature for all questions that come up. The other thing that I would like to mention is that we are recording this session and will make the proceedings available via a link to either our Vimeo or our YouTube account. We will be posting connection information after the presentation, so just let you know that we will be capturing everything here. So without further ado, I just want to again welcome Shawn. Shawn has over a decade of experience in workplace safety and regulatory compliance across multiple industries. He's a St. Clair College graduate in business administration, that's human resources, health and safety, and has worked across British Columbia, Alberta, Manitoba, and he's gained deep insight into regional safety regulations. We are very privileged to have Shawn with us today. And so, Shawn, I'm going to pass the floor or the presentation of the screen over to you. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Peter, and good morning, everyone. Before we begin, just a special thank you to the Agricultural Adaptation Council for having me on today and for hosting this webinar. So again, welcome everyone. Today we're going to be talking about managing safety without a safety department, which is a large challenge for a lot of organizations. So before we get going here, and just to better understand who is participating in our safety connections and to ensure that we're providing accessible training for all people in Ontario, we'd like to invite you to participate in a short survey. We're collecting demographic information on behalf of our funder, the Ministry of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development. Your responses will be kept secure and anonymous, and the ministry will not receive any of your personal information. WSPS will be analyzing the survey results to aggregate from prior to sending them to the Ministry of Labour. Of course, completing the survey or answering any of the questions is completely optional. To access the survey, click on the link after today's presentation or scan the QR code with your phone or electronic device. You will need the 6-digit function number to start the survey, which is shown on the screen. Thank you all for taking the time for this survey and helping make health and safety training accessible for everyone in Ontario. Let's give it a couple more seconds there, just in case. All right. So just a couple housekeeping items. Make sure that you are connected today with your computer's audio. Phone conferencing or calling in is available, but computer audio is recommended. Make sure that your microphone remains muted and that your camera remains off just to limit distractions for everyone as we are going through today's presentation. So some of the goals today of the Safety Connection are 4 parts: to learn, share, and discover what is of value to you, our customers, our clients, and community, to connect virtually with industry peers, to facilitate a best practice exchange, and to provide an opportunity to attend this health and safety webinar and learn more from your personal workspaces. So on today's agenda, we're going to do a brief introduction to who WSPS is and today's topic. We're going to go through how to start implementing and addressing the world of health and safety using the acronym POWER. This will be 5 simple steps you can use to start initiating the change of your health and safety culture on your farm. And then also we'll have time for questions and resources. So without further ado, if you have never heard of WSPS, that's okay. WSPS, Workplace Safety and Prevention Services, is a not-for-profit organization committed to protecting Ontario workers and businesses. We serve over 171,000 member firms and over 4.2 million workers in agriculture, manufacturing, and service sectors such as hospitality, restaurants, retailers, etc. We offer health and safety expertise, consulting, training, and resources. Our mandate includes helping businesses understand their risks and legal obligations to stay in compliance and build safer workplaces. We are also a proud partner of Ontario's occupational health and safety system. This system is made up of different partners. Each partner has a unique role to play in implementing the occupational health and safety strategy in Ontario, such as the Ministry of Labour, Immigration, Training and Skills Development, is responsible for legislation, enforcement, and prevention. The Workplace Safety and Insurance Board, WSIB, Workers' Compensation, Prevention and Return to Work Supports. And then there's us, the Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. We are one of 4 health and safety associations along with IHSA, PSHSA, and WSN. Our focus is to prevention of workplace injuries and illnesses in the province of Ontario. We're here to provide guidance, information, and resources so businesses like yours can build safer workplaces and thrive. So to start today's presentation, meet Daniel. Daniel is the sole proprietor of a berry farm in the Niagara region of our province. Daniel recently started hiring more workers on the farm as there has been an increased demand for local produce over the summer. However, with new workers also comes more responsibility. And if you're anything like Daniel, Daniel has a lot going on and a lot on his mind and is wearing a lot of hats. Maybe you can relate with some of these. Daniel wears administrative hats around, again, administrative, legal, comms, claims reporting, around sales. He's thinking about business development, public relations. He's thinking about quality. He's thinking about his operations for project managers, customer service, strategic initiatives. He's thinking about technical, security, quality, new engineering, or maybe new technology he can put on the farm. There's a lot going on. And so when we're talking about this, where does health and safety even fit in? And so we're going to talk about how to juggle, even with all of these hats, simple safety solutions that you can integrate into your business quickly and efficiently. So before we get started today, we do have a couple questions just to see who's in the room today. What type of operation are you on? Tender fruit, greenhouse, open field, livestock, or other? So go ahead and enter into the chat. We'll give it a couple seconds there. Perfect. Okay, so it looks like we've got a good mix today. Awesome. So most of us are in other or livestock, so that's good to know. How about for all of us here, what type or operation size are you when we're talking about employees? 0 to 5, 6 to 19, 20 to 49, or more than 50? Give it another couple seconds here just to answer the poll. All right, so again, it looks like we've got a good mix. The majority looks like we've got 0 to 5, but then we've also got some 20 to 49 and 50 plus in the room. So a good mix that we can start to have a conversation. And then lastly, this one is how many hats are you currently juggling? This one's a little bit more tongue in cheek, but also a little bit more relatable. I know I have a family farm up in the northern area of Ontario near Thunder Bay, a cattle farm, and my uncle wears probably a dozen hats. Now, there's not enough time in the day. Give it another couple seconds there. Yeah, okay, so we're across the board. Some people are wearing, most of us, it looks like we're wearing 3 to 5 plus. So, when we're talking about health and safety, where does this start to come in? And how can we start to build a more reliable health and safety system? Today, the foundation of what we're going to talk about is the Internal Responsibility System, also known as the IRS, and 5 simple steps that you can use to facilitate the Internal Responsibility System and start to integrate health and safety into your workplace. There will be a little icon on the top right of our screen today and other places as well on the slides. We'll be sending out resources connected to everything that we're talking about today and a follow-up email from the AAC. So make sure you look out for that as it will be coming after today's presentation. So what is the Internal Responsibility System? The Internal Responsibility System is the foundation of workplace health and safety in Ontario based off of the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Every jurisdiction in Canada, plus many westernized countries, have something like this. This framework shares the duties for health and safety between all workplace parties, employers, supervisors, and workers. Imagine a three-legged stool for a moment, like you see on the screen. To sit on the stool, each stool must be supported on its edge of the seat. If one of the legs is damaged or weak, the seat becomes unlevel. The system is now out of balance. The other leg should recognize this and take action to support and fix the weaker leg. If you were sitting on an unbalanced stool, or if a leg did fail, such as an incident occurring, a hazard causing harm, you might fall off the stool, causing a workplace injury. Laying on the ground, you wouldn't blame a specific leg or workplace party, you would blame the entire stool. You wouldn't say to the stool was in good repair with one leg or a broken leg or a weaker leg for this metaphor. You would say that the stool needed attention and you would fix it so that you could sit down again. This is what it is when we're talking about the internal responsibility system. It's a similar concept in that the workplace parties, the legs, must function together for the system to cooperatively and supporting and balancing each other to create and maintain workplace health and safety. So when we're talking about who's responsible for what inside of the workplace, it's really legislated teamwork. The employer is responsible to provide a healthy and safe environment and establishes the health and safety program of the workplace, following all applicable laws according to the Occupational Health and Safety Act. Supervisors monitor, enforce, and communicate these rules to workers. And workers also have responsibilities to follow these rules and report any concerns they have to their employer or their supervisor. There is one other team member on this that you could probably say is the brace between all 3 legs, and that is your Joint Health and Safety Committee or the Health and Safety Representative. These individuals monitor the system, make recommendations to the employer, and support communication between parties. When these work together, workplace health and safety cultures are properly supported and maintain balance and support throughout the organization. So when it comes to starting with your health and safety program, the first step is policies and procedures. Now, this list is not comprehensive. However, it's a good starting point. Policies essentially are your ground rules for your organization of how your organization views and will respond to different situations. So, for example, a health and safety policy will set out the standard and vision of safety inside of your organization. First aid policies and procedures will ensure that people are aware of who they go to in the event of any type of a first aid incident. who is going to provide first aid, and responsibilities within the organization. Emergency preparedness will determine what to do in the event of different types of emergencies, such as tornadoes, fires, violence in the workplace, and so on. Again, this is not a comprehensive list, but this is the place to start. If you don't have a document outlining how to handle different situations, you'll get a different result each and every time. One thing I will mention, and I'll talk about this a little more at the end, you can actually get a rebate for implementing some of these into your business through the WSIB's Health and Safety Excellence Program. Businesses can get up to 200% of their premiums rebated to them from the previous calendar year. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of today's presentation. So when we are talking about policies and procedures, one of the top complaints and claims inside of the workplace in Ontario is workplace violence and harassment. A top claim for mental health can be the reason for stress leave, a toxic environment, changeover in staff, etc. This is something that is often missed by workplaces in Ontario. A workplace violence and harassment policy must be a written program to prevent and protect employees from workplace harassment and violence. And it must have inside of the policy triggers for reporting, investigation, information, and training. Additionally, if you have a health and safety representative or joint health and safety committee, they do need to review it. The same goes for a violence program. It's there to prevent and protect, including situations where domestic abuse may be taking place that travels into the workplace. How to report and how investigations will take place, how to summon immediate assistance, information for training, and one thing that a lot of places forget is building this off of a violence risk assessment. This is one of the requirements inside of the Occupational Health and Safety Act, and I've personally seen 2 organizations I worked for receive non-compliance orders surrounding this element. Now, if that scares you a little bit, don't be too scared. As you can see, we have a little computer screen there on the bottom, which means we have tools and resources connected to this. As you can see on the screen, we have templates and policies that you can use to start building your program. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to figure it out on your own. We're here to help. The next thing in our acronym is obligatory posting requirements. To make sure workers know their rights, most workplaces in Ontario must put up posters and other information. The law specifies certain minimum information that must be posted in your workplace. This includes a health and safety policy, workplace violence and harassment policy, if applicable, the name of the health and safety representative or joint health and safety committee members, along with any monthly inspection reports by the worker. A copy of the Occupational Health and Safety Act or the Green Book. You can either do the actual Green Book or you can print it off from the King's printer on ontario.ca. Prevention Starts Here poster. This summarizes the rights and duties of the employer, supervisor, and workers and has contact information for the Ministry of Labor, Immigration, Training, and Skills Development. The Workplace Safety and Insurance Board in case of injury poster. This poster outlines what your employer and you must do if you're injured on the job. Any orders that have been given by the Ministry of Labor, Training, and Immigration and Skills Development. First aiders on site, their contact information, and their certificates. And depending on the number of employees in your business, there may be additional requirements for your business. We'll include a checklist that you can go through to make sure that you are posting everything that you need to on your board. One thing I like to remind businesses of is there is also another thing that you can do to make your workplace safer. And that is including any emergency information like evacuation maps, where your outdoor or indoor gathering areas are, and emergency information for things like fire, ambulance, poison control, the Ministry of Labor, your local environmental services, and so on. This one is a quick win because it takes less time than some of the other items that we'll talk about today. You can't do safety overnight, but you can go to the website, print these off, and post them for a quick win, which will start to cause people to notice that there is a change taking place. Again, this is a quick win item. We will provide links to everything that you see on the screen here so that you can print these off and post them even by end of week. Again, we want to start establishing quick wins inside of the organization so that we can, number one, continue to achieve compliance, but number two, start to change the culture within our organization. Because as people start to see you take initiative in your workplace, safety will begin to be top of mind. The next step in our acronym is workplace hazards through identification and control. At WSPS, we use something called the RACE method, which stands for recognize, assess, control, and evaluate. The RACE method is the best way to manage hazards, and will provide an overview of the model, then give you the details on each part. First, we need to recognize. Recognize means identify. Before you can do anything, you need to know about the hazard that could injure your workers, and you need to know that they exist. The next step is assess, which means to understand. Now that we've identified a hazard, we need to understand its significance. Once we understand its significance, we need to control, which means to protect. Knowing the significance is important because it will determine how reasonable a potential precaution measure is. And then finally, evaluate. Evaluate means to check back to make sure your controls implemented are doing what they're supposed to be doing and working. If a hazard remains in your workplace, you may need to continue to work around this wheel until you've safely and efficiently protected your workers. So let's look at some of these in further detail. So for recognizing, there are 6 distinct types of hazards, and they're in every type of workplace. The first one is physical, for things such as noise, vibration, temperature, or radiation. These are harmful energies that you can't maybe see, but are still there. Biological are things like bacteria, viruses, blood, poison ivy, dealing with large animals. Biological hazards are harmful living things that could cause infection or disease or injury in humans or to equipment. The next, chemical, such as paint, oil, herbicides, pesticides, and so on. Chemical hazards are are part of the WMIS and customer products that you use that have toxic or other harmful effects on your animals, plants, humans, so on. MSD. This is the #1 claimed injury in the province of Ontario, according to the WSIB. Over 40% of injuries reported to the WSIB are in this category. MSD, or musculoskeletal disorder, or ergonomic type hazards, are the result of a mismatch between a worker and their task. This is the most, again, expensive hazard for Ontario as a whole, especially when we start doing things around force, repetition, posture, and over time. Psychosocial. This is anything that affects your mental well-being or attitude. This could be harassment, violence, pressure, or stress. And then lastly, safety. Safety is everything else. The first 5 that we discussed are health hazards that result in illness due to exposure. Safety results in acute injury. Safety tends to be the most apparent, easily spotted of the 6 categories. This could be slips, trips, and falls due to a wet condition or wires on the ground, things like that. Vehicles, machinery, tools, and so on. Now that you have you know about the different types of hazards, how could you identify them in the workplace? Start to think about your own farm. Did any of the hazards that we talked about come to mind when we were going through this? Has anyone in your organization been trained on, hey, we have this hazard, and this is how you work safely? These are some of the questions that you need to ask inside of your internal responsibility system. Has anyone in your organization ever been hurt from one of these? So let's use an example. Let's go back to Daniel. Yeah, when they receive heavy supplies. Those bags are heavy and his back gets sore. Someone almost ran somebody's foot over with a dolly. Okay, these are hazards that we've identified. Now let's continue in the process. We're going to assess the risk. Assessment is about understanding the risk level of a hazard. The risk and hazards are not synonyms. The hazard is the potential harm and the problem. The risk level is a way of measuring the hazard of how bad is it. Risk lets us compare and prioritize resources. Two inputs define risk: likelihood and consequence. Likelihood is asking the question, is the hazard likely to cause the injury we're talking about? And then the consequence is asking, can the hazard cause a serious injury or illness? There are simple yes and no questions, and what is the immediate answer for each of these? And then your answers to these two questions provide the risk assessment. 2 yeses equals a high risk. 1 yes and 1 no is a medium risk, and 2 no's is a low risk. So for example, lifting heavy seed bags over and over and over again. Is it likely? Yes. Can it cause a severe injury? Potentially. This is going to be a medium to high risk. Someone almost ran over my foot with a trolley. Well, did it happen? No. Could it happen? Yes. Is it very likely? No. What's the best outcome? Maybe a sore foot. This is going to be a low type of hazard when we're talking about risk associated with it. And then we're going to talk about controls. When we're talking about controls, we're going to talk about how do we effectively control this in the workplace. The preferred method starts with elimination, and these become less and less effective the more you rely on employees to comply each and every time. One thing that I tell organizations is the less you have to rely on people for their safety, the more safe they are. Not all controls are going to be effective as others. However, some controls may work better in conjunction with others. So for example, wearing PPE and having training and having a guard on a piece of equipment. These work together to reduce the risk to the injury. These are the best ways to control your hazards. Elimination, substitution, engineering. When you start to get into awareness, administrative, and PPE, you should stop and make sure that there are no other means that you can use to efficiently and effectively protect your workers. So let's use the example of our heavy feed bags. We can eliminate feed bags. And sometimes using this, we'll find out we can't really do that. Because if we eliminate the feed bags, we no longer have a farm. Could we use tote bags and use a forklift for smaller bags? Potentially. Could we provide a dolly or some sort of push cart to our employees? Could we ask the supplier to send two 20-pound boxes and not a 40-pound box? Could we put a safe lifting poster near where our employees are going to receive the seed bags into the farm? And can we train them on how to safely lift items and also train them that, hey, if something is too heavy, get someone to help you. These are all different ways that you could control the risk associated with the hazard of lifting heavy objects throughout the day. And then also closed toe footwear could be used as well. So remember, as we're going through this, it means as we go through, you're going to find more issues as you grow. There's no such thing as a perfect safety culture in the province of Ontario. You're always growing. So one of the things that you can do are start to build a library of different hazards that you find. So for example, using this hazard assessment, receiving supplies is your task. What's the hazard? Well, maybe a back strain because of lifting. Is there a high likelihood? Yes. Is there a high consequence? Yes, rating is high. Current controls, you might not have any. Recommended controls, maybe a dolly, like we talked about, a poster, and some safe lifting procedures and training. Anything that you need to follow up on, purchase the dolly. You'll do this for each item that you find. Now, it's not all going to be on you. Remember the internal responsibility system. If you have workers inside of your workplace, supervisors, joint health and safety committee, or health and safety representative, they can be a part of this process or spearhead this process. Your employees potentially will see things that you've never considered before because they're the ones doing the job task day in and day out alongside of you, but they may have a different perspective. Going to your workers and supervisors is a great way to find out more information about what might be going on around your farm that you're not aware of. So there's something inside of the Occupational Health and Safety Act called due diligence. Due diligence means that an employer or a supervisor must do everything within their power to ensure the safety of their workers, given the different circumstances. Now, when we're doing due diligence means that I can prove that I'm doing everything within my power to ensure the safety of my workers. So using something like a hazard assessment tool, could that be used as evidence of due diligence? Yes. Due diligence means also documenting what you do. I've talked to many organizations over the years, and a lot of things are still done verbally, showing someone how to do something, job shadowing, etc. While that's a great starting point, there needs to be a document that accompanies that. If we don't document, there's something in the safety world that we say, if it's not documented, it never happened. Make sure you are documenting things that do happen. Next on the acronym, education via orientation and training. This is not just for employees, but for the safety leads, supervisors, so they all know what to do in the event of different situations and can identify hazards and how to control them. We've made this as simple as possible. You can generate an entire onboarding health and safety package and document using our health and safety orientation handbook generator and new worker orientation guide on our website. Again, that will be provided after today's presentation. Basic awareness training for workers and supervisors are available through the Ministry of Labor online, but make sure that you do train also your employees on specific hazards and policies that you might have on your farm. So remember, it's not just for the workers, it's also for managers, supervisors, and safety leads. Make sure you're taking time to help employees understand how important a healthy and safe workplace is to you and their main roles or responsibilities. Again, a good place to start is the Ontario 4-step training that's available online. We'll provide a link to that after today's session. Young workers. Young workers may be eager to please their employer or show that they're a good worker. However, there are far too many young workers who are injured in their first days or weeks on the job. In fact, new and young workers in Ontario are 3 times more likely to be injured during their first month than anyone else on the job. Of claims that happen with the WSIB, 40% of them happen within the first 90 days of someone's employment. Why? People are inexperienced, afraid to ask, or don't know the right way to do a job. Don't take for granted that someone will always know the right questions to ask or the information. Make sure to help them out. Just because you know something doesn't mean that someone else will know them. And sometimes what we think is common sense may not actually be common sense for someone who's new to a farm. Have them shadow someone who sets a positive example and shows them the ropes on your farm. Praise them when you observe them following safe work procedures and correct them when they're not. If returning workers have been on extended leave, such as seasonal, maternity leave, etc., they should have an overview of things that may have changed and a refresher on health and safety before going back on the farm. Supervisors also need to be trained. They have additional duties and responsibilities in your workplace, and you'll be relying on them to ensure the safety of your workers, which means they have more training requirements. You will need to ensure they have the time and knowledge to recognize job hazards and how to enforce company policies and safe work expectations. Remember, as the employer, you are required to appoint a competent person into the supervisory role. This means someone who is, oh, this means someone who is qualified because of their knowledge, their training and experience, is familiar with the Act and its regulations, and is knowledgeable of any potential danger or health and safety issues in the workplace. Again, if this seems overwhelming, don't worry. We'll include a 5-step training that is provided through the Ministry of Labor online that you can give to your supervisors to get them started. If there's any contractors, visitors, or suppliers coming on site, they should also be aware of your expectations when coming onto your farm, such as, for example, any PPE, any emergency evacuation points, or any policies that you want them to be knowledgeable of to adhere to while on site, such as your violence and harassment policy, safety policy, or how to report an injury or an illness should the need arise. Some of the training that you should be providing are, again, the 4-step and 5-step that we talked about, the basics of occupational health and safety in the province of Ontario. This is mandatory for every workplace in the province. Orientation enables you to customize this and input things like unique hazards that you might have on your farm, unique protocols that might be on your farm, emergency preparedness, specific policies, and so on. How do we do this? Mandatory awareness training, again, in the 4 and 5-step. Using that orientation handbook generator, again, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to burden yourself with more administrative tasks. You can print off an entire book in as little as 15 minutes for your employees to read through and sign off on that they have understood it. Additionally, knowing jobs and hazards within the workplace. These are just a few areas that you can train on. Other areas that you might want to train on are things like WMIS, working at heights, and so on. It be dependent on the type of workplace that you have. So I want you to think about what we've talked about today, and we're close to wrapping up. Don't worry. I know this has been a lot of information. How satisfied are you with your record keeping right now? Very satisfied, satisfied, not satisfied? Do we need to keep records? And the answer is yes, you do need to keep records. Again, there is something inside of the health and safety world that we say if it's not documented, it never happened. This is especially important if there is something that happens that results in an incident, first aid, or a critical type injury. A critical injury means that life has been placed in jeopardy, produces unconsciousness, results in a substantial loss of blood, involves the fracture of a leg or arm but not a finger or toe, involves the amputation of a leg, arm, hand, or foot but not a finger or toe, consists to burns to a major portion of the body, or causes the loss of sight in an eye. These are critical types of injuries where documentation is key. We'll include a document after today's presentation guiding you through what to do in the event of a critical type injury. Other forms may need to be kept for different types of injuries, such as a Form 6, which is the worker's perspective from the WSIB when claiming benefit from the WSIB. A Form 7 is filed with the WSIB from the employer's perspective and needs to be submitted within 3 business days to the WSIB. A Form 8 is produced by a medical practitioner, and this form is completed by a medical practitioner when a worker receives medical attention. These forms should be kept inside of an employee file. Inside of that employee file should also be any training records that you've done with them, hazard relating related records such as confined space, forklifts, pre-trip inspections, etc. Joint Health and Safety Committee should also be keeping their records as well of their meetings and of their inspection reports. Make sure that if the question is, do I need to record this? Even just jotting a note down in a book and having someone's signature goes a long way in showing due diligence. So, you might be asking, but I can't supervise everything by myself. Can I delegate? And the answer is yes. A supervisor has charge over the workplace or authority over a worker. Remember, your supervisors need to be competent when dealing with health and safety inside of the workplace because of their knowledge, training, and experience, familiar with health and safety laws, and know all of the hazards. Again, to ensure the competency of your supervisors, make sure that they're trained on every aspect of the work that they will be observing. If people are driving forklifts inside of their department, but they don't know how to safely operate a forklift, make sure they're trained on how to do that so that they know how to spot inappropriate use of a forklift, just as an example. The better you train your supervisors, the safer your workplace will become. This also goes with your Joint Health and Safety Committee, if you have it, or a health and safety representative. You don't have to do it all alone. Delegating things like inspection reports of your workplace, checking to make sure that your first aid station is stocked, completing training with workers. These things can be done potentially with your supervisors or the health and safety representative. Again, remember, policies are your starting point. This will frame your entire health and safety program moving forward. Quick wins. Make sure you put up your postings, and again, the links will be sent at the end of today. Recognizing your workplace hazards. Leaning on your frontline workers and staff will help you get the ball rolling on things that you can do, again, that are quick wins inside of your organization. Educating your workers in orientation. Make sure that everybody is aware of the leg of the stool that they are responsible to support. And as you go through all of this, record it. You can do that through notes on a phone. You can do that through sign-offs, but make sure that it has a sign-off, a date, and what the person was trained on. Again, effective record keeping will save you time, money, and potentially trouble in the future. Again, partner with your Joint Health and Safety Committee or your health and safety representative. You don't have to do it all alone. An effectively trained Joint Health and Safety Committee and health and safety representative will make sure that you are not burdened with everything. You may need to do training. You may need to do hazard controls, but you are part of a legislated team. Remember that next time you're going out onto the farm. You can sign up for our newsletter as we are constantly putting out content of different changes or different ways to address situations inside of the province. You can connect with your system partners for resources. And if you have other duties, again, make sure to delegate. And remember, there's no such thing as a perfect health and safety system. You're going to be constantly growing. Things will come up, things will change, but you're not alone. You have an entire health and safety system here to support you at Workplace Safety and Prevention Services. You also have customer services at the Ministry of Labor, at the WSIB, and you also have health and safety clinics across Ontario to help you navigate your health and safety journey. If you want some additional resources of where do I even start, we have Safety Bite videos that will teach you about different areas of health and safety and what your responsibilities might be. Again, a link will be provided at the end of today's session. We also have a small biz safety podcast, which talks about everything from hot weather controls to should we have naloxone kits inside of our workplace. We talk about it all. Lastly, if you feel a little bit overwhelmed or you don't know where to start, we do have complimentary consulting for businesses. One thing I want to stress, we do not share with the Ministry of Labor or WSIB anything that we see on site. We are there to serve you and help you navigate health and safety inside of the workplace. If you have 20 or less employees, we offer up to 10 hours of free consulting for you and your business. We also have complimentary farm visits where we will send a health and safety expert in the ag sector to your farm to help pointing out different ways that you can continue to grow on your farm. We also have an entire website dedicated to small businesses and the agriculture world to help you get started. Our safety roadmap will help you identify different gaps and provide you with the resources that you need to close these gaps. Again, we also have things for training your workers, such as resources in Spanish and other languages as well, about common workplace hazards on the farm. Again, links to these will be sent at the end of today's session. Again, we are always here to help with free resources and more, complimentary consulting, training and certification, and helping with the WSIB Health and Safety Excellence Program. Just a heads up, something will be coming in the AAC's newsletter. So if you're not signed up for that, make sure that you do after today's session. And there will be some more information about how you can get rebates on your farm for just simply following what the law says. So with that, we'll open it up for some questions. Thank you so much today for your time and your attention, and I hope that was informative for you.
Thank you so much, Shawn. I'm just monitoring our chat here to see if we have any questions coming from our audience. Again, please feel free to type your questions into the chat so we can see them. We have some time for any questions you may have. And I think Chantel's already typed that into our chat feature too. All right. A couple of seconds just in case please type in. Some notes of appreciation, obviously. It was a great overview, Shawn.
And I will mention here, if there's no questions now and you think of something after, my contact information will be shared as well. Again, we're here to help you anytime that you need.
Great. Well, if we don't have any questions coming in, I do want to reiterate that we will be making this presentation available for and our members. We'll probably have a link to the full presentation actually in a upcoming newsletter as well. I guess, yeah, Shawn, what we take away is that this is, certainly we feel like we have a very comprehensive and powerful resource at our disposal for issues of workplace safety. It's great to see all of the resources available. We all, as businesses, certainly get top of mind. It's a very important issue for everyone. But if there are no further questions, again, thank you much for joining us today. I know I learned a lot about but yeah, if there are no further questions, I'm just going to wrap this up and wish everybody a good day.
All right. Thanks so much. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, John.